I am the only daughter of a wealthy family, beautiful, with bodyguards accompanying me wherever I go, and I can have anything I want. I can hear the thoughts of my deskmate, Zhaoying. She envies me, wishing she could swap bodies with me and take my fate for herself. Not long after, Zhaoying took a trip to Thailand. The day she returned, she handed me a string of bracelets, smiling as she told me to wear them every day. I heard it loud and clear. In her heart, she was shouting, "As long as Xiaoyan wears them for a full month, we can completely swap places." I didn't refuse. The bracelet stayed pressed against my wrist day and night, never taken off, not even while bathing. Day by day passed, and the 1-month deadline drew closer and closer. The look in Xiaoying's eyes towards me shifted from initial jealousy to undisguised excitement, and I, even more excited and expectant than she was. Everyone thinks I have a fortunate life. My name is Xiaoyan. 17 years old, the only daughter of the Xiao family, the wealthiest in the city. Every morning, when I wake up from the oversized bed that could easily fit 5 people, I always see the neatly trimmed lawn outside the window and the distant fountain. The walk-in closet is filled with the latest seasonal clothes and handbags, while the dressing table is adorned with a dazzling array of skincare products and jewelry. But what I cherish most is the photo of my mother and me on the bedside table. In the photo, she looks elegant and beautiful, holding 8-year-old me tightly in her arms with a gentle smile. Unfortunately, I haven't seen such a smile in a long time. "Miss, it's time to get up. The driver is already waiting." Butler Lin knocked on the door. I responded and casually picked up my school uniform. The school uniform was the same as everyone else's, but I could feel that its fabric was softer than my classmates'. That was because my mother had specially ordered it to be remade. When the black Bentley parked under the teaching building, I noticed a few classmates glancing over, envy, jealousy, or perhaps both. I was used to it. As soon as I entered the classroom, my deskmate Zhaoying greeted me warmly. "Yayun, you look great today." I smiled and put down my backpack. At that very moment, a clear voice suddenly intruded into my mind. "What's with the act of being all high and mighty? It's just that you were lucky enough to be born into a good life. If only I could swap lives with you. I definitely deserve this kind of life more than you do." I froze, looking at Zhaoying. Her lips didn't move. She was still smiling sweetly at me, handing over a piece of chocolate. "Try it. My mom made it herself. Go ahead and eat, Miss Hyan Mains. Soon, everything you have will be mine." My heart sank. This wasn't an illusion. I could actually hear Zhaoying's inner thoughts. The first class was math, and I didn't pay attention at all. I tried to focus and found that as long as I got within half a meter of Zhaoying, I could clearly hear her inner thoughts. But when she moved farther away from me, this ability disappeared. During the break, Zhaoying took out a small, delicate gift box from her backpack. "Yayun, this is a lucky bracelet I specially asked for you when I traveled to Thailand during the summer vacation. It was blessed by a high monk and can protect you with peace and smoothness." She opened the box. Inside was an exquisitely woven bracelet with a pale blue bead in the center, emitting a faint luster. "Wear it. As long as you wear it for a full month, our lives can be exchanged. By then, your mansion, your clothes, your identity, they will all be mine." My hand trembled slightly, but I still smiled and accepted the gift. "It's really beautiful. Thank you. Let me help you put it on." Without waiting for my reply, Zhaoying picked up the bracelet and carefully fastened it around my left wrist. "Remember, you must wear it every day, even when showering. Only then will it work." "Yes, absolutely, don't take it off. Just keep wearing it for a full month, and I'll be able to escape that shabby little house and my parents who nag all day long." I looked down at the bead on my wrist, which shimmered with a subtle light, as if it had a life of its own. "I'll keep wearing it," I whispered softly. On the way home, I leaned against the car window, watching the fleeting street scenes outside. Zhaoying's inner thoughts kept echoing in my mind. Swapping lives. Is that really possible? If I told her I'd rather live her life, would she believe me? Yes, everyone thinks I'm lucky, but they don't know I've almost never walked the streets alone. There are always bodyguards by my side. I have no real friends. Most people who approach me have ulterior motives. I can't even decide what to wear tomorrow. Mom has a dedicated stylist to take care of everything for me. What makes me most uneasy is that every 3 months, I have to undergo a comprehensive physical examination. Mom says it's to ensure I'm healthy, but those checkups are so thorough they feel suffocating. From blood tests to organ function, nothing is overlooked. "Miss, we're here." The driver's voice interrupted my thoughts. The villa gate slowly opened, and Mom stood at the entrance. She was unusually at home today. "Yayun, you're back," she smiled, but her eyes quickly swept over my entire body, finally settling on the bracelet on my left wrist. "What is this?" "A gift from a classmate, said to be a lucky bracelet." Mom's brow furrowed slightly. "You know we don't wear things of unknown origin. It's just a classmate's kind gesture. I'll wear it for a few days and then put it away." I tried to keep my voice sounding light. She stared at the bracelet for a few seconds, then finally nodded. Go ahead, change your clothes and come down for dinner, dear. Wang will be here tonight for your routine checkup. Another checkup. I nodded and turned to go upstairs. The month passed both slowly and quickly. Zhaoying checked almost daily to see if I was still wearing the bracelet. Her gaze grew increasingly intense, and the voice in her heart grew more and more excited. 3 more days. I'm finally going to break free from this mediocre life. Tomorrow is the last day. Once I become Xiao Yayan, the first thing I'll do is fire that butler who always looks at me with suspicion, and I, too, am looking forward to it. If the exchange really happens, will I finally be able to escape those endless medical checkups? Can I just be like an ordinary person, shopping with friends, eating snacks at street stalls, without being constantly watched by bodyguards? On the last night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror. Gently touching the bracelet on my wrist, the blue beads seemed brighter than ever, as if something was flowing inside them. Good night, Xiao Yayan, I said to myself, not sure if it was a farewell or a greeting. The next morning, I woke up in an unfamiliar bed. The room was small, with pale pink walls adorned with posters of celebrities I didn't recognize. The desk was piled high with textbooks, and a few potted succulents sat on the windowsill. Sunlight filtered through the light blue curtains. The door opened gently, and a middle-aged woman wearing an apron peeked in. Xiaoying, it's time to get up. If you don't hurry, you'll be late for school. I froze for a few seconds before realizing she was calling me. I'll be right there, I tried to reply, my voice a bit higher and lighter than usual. That was Zhao Ying's voice. The exchange had really happened. At the dinner table, Zhao Ying's parents were bickering over a trivial matter. Zhao's mother complained that Zhao's father had once again left his socks scattered around, to which he responded with a playful apology. This ordinary family atmosphere filled my heart with a warm feeling. Why is our littling so quiet today? Zhao's father noticed my silence and asked with concern, probably still half asleep. I quickly lowered my head to drink the porridge. The porridge was plain rice porridge, served with pickles and a fried egg, simple yet comforting. Compared to the meticulously prepared French breakfast at home, I preferred this. As I entered the classroom, I saw Zhaoying, who had swapped bodies with me, sitting in my seat. She lifted her head high, her expression arrogant, as if she were the natural master of this body. Zhaoying, you're here. She deliberately emphasized the words Zhaoying, a smug smile curling at the corners of her mouth. From today onward, I'm going to thoroughly enjoy my life. A few classmates glanced over curiously, puzzled as to why Xiao Yayan would say such a thing to Zhaoying. I smiled calmly. I wish you all the best. She was taken aback for a moment, seemingly not expecting me to be so composed, then quickly regained her haughty expression. Of course, this is what I deserve, sitting in the seat that originally belonged to Zhaoying. I gazed out the window at the bright sunlight, feeling a sense of relief I had never known before. She had no idea that I had long since learned the truth from my mother's innermost thoughts. I am not her biological daughter, but her clone, a living organ bank meant to maintain her youth and health. When I turn 18, she will take all my young organs and transplant them into her 60-year-old body. Now, this fate will be borne by Zhaoying, and I, at last, can live the ordinary life I have always dreamed of. This feeling is truly wonderful. The school bell rang, and I packed up my books. For the first time, I didn't need to wait for my bodyguard and walked out of the school gate alone. The sunlight fell on my face, warm and real. I don't know when Zhaoying will discover the truth, nor do I know what choice she will make when faced with that harsh reality, but right now, I just want to fully enjoy this hard-won freedom. The aroma of milk tea wafted from the corner shop. I felt the loose change in my pocket and walked over with a smile. Today marks the first day of my new life. Zhao Ying's home is just 2 blocks away from school, and this is the first time I've walked to and from school. Sunlight filtered through the sycamore leaves, casting dappled shadows. I slowed my pace, savoring the gentle breeze against my face. Without the entourage of bodyguards or the barrier of a luxury car, I could finally feel the true warmth of the city. A small group of students stood in line outside the milk tea shop on the corner. After a moment's hesitation, I joined the end of the queue. Zhaoying, why are you alone today? A girl with a ponytail tapped me on the shoulder from behind. I was taken aback for a moment before realizing she was calling me. Based on the photo on Zhao Ying's desk, I recognized this as her good friend Lin Xiaoyu. I want to drink milk tea. I tried my best to imitate Zhao Ying's usual tone of voice. Lin Xiaoyu leaned in closer and lowered her voice. Why didn't you wait for me before leaving today? And this morning, I saw you talking to Xiao Yayan. Her attitude was really strange. Maybe she's just in a bad mood. I brushed it off lightly, while noticing the menu on the counter. What would you like to drink? It's on me, really. Has the sun risen from the west? Lin Xiaoyu widened her eyes exaggeratedly. Then get me a large pearl milk tea. I ordered a taro ball milk tea for myself and paid with the loose change from Zhao Ying's wallet. As the warm, sweet milk tea slid down my throat, a strange sense of satisfaction washed over me. This is the first time in 17 years that I've had milk tea from a roadside shop. My mother never allowed me to touch such unhealthy drinks. Zhao Ying's home is on the 5th floor of an old residential building, with no elevator. While climbing the stairs, I actually felt a strange sense of happiness. The hallway was filled with the aroma of home-cooked meals from every household. And the walls were plastered with small ads for unclogging drains. These ordinary traces of life made me feel a profound sense of reality. Xiaoying, you're back, and Zhao poked her head out of the kitchen, wearing an apron. I made your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs today. In the less than 60 square meter apartment, the living room doubled as the dining area, where Uncle Zhao was sitting on the sofa reading the newspaper. Seeing me come in, he put down the newspaper and smiled, saying, "How was our little princess's day at school today?" "It's quite nice." I placed my backpack on the chair by the door, a casual act that would never have been allowed in my previous home. The dinner was simple yet heartwarming: a plate of sweet and sour pork ribs, a dish of stir-fried seasonal vegetables, and a bowl of tomato and egg soup. Auntie Zhao kept putting food into my bowl, while Uncle Zhao shared amusing stories from his workplace. This relaxed and joyful family atmosphere was something I had never experienced in that cold, empty mansion. "By the way, your cousin is getting married next week. We need to take a day off to attend the wedding," Mom Zhao suddenly said. Dad Zhao frowned. "Another day off? My perfect attendance bonus for this month is going to be ruined again. Relatives only get married once in a lifetime. Would it be right if you didn't go?" Watching them argue over such a small matter, I felt a warm glow in my heart. This is what real family life is like, with arguments, affection, and the warmth of everyday moments. The next morning, I woke up right on time at 6:30. Zhao Ying's alarm clock was an adorable cartoon design, and its ringtone was the most popular song of the moment. It took me a few minutes to figure out how to turn it off, and this clumsy feeling somehow felt refreshing. Breakfast was steamed buns and soy milk prepared by Auntie Zhao herself, which suited my taste better than the English breakfast prepared by the chef at home. "Eat quickly, don't be late." Auntie Zhao placed a peeled egg in my bowl, her movements natural and practiced. Stepping out of the house, I took a deep breath of the morning air. The streets were already bustling, with breakfast stalls steaming and office workers hurrying along, while students walked in small groups toward the school. I blended in among them, and no one gave me any strange looks. This sense of normalcy was a huge relief. When I walked into the classroom, I was surrounded by several girls. Zhaoying was handling herself with ease in my body, showing off her newly purchased limited edition handbag and basking in the admiring gazes of everyone. Seeing me come in, she deliberately raised her voice. "This bag was brought back by my dad from France. There are only 10 in the world." I calmly walked to my seat and took out my textbook. Lin Xiaoyu leaned over and whispered, "Xiao Yayan seems particularly high profile today. She usually doesn't show off much. Maybe she's in an especially good mood today," I said with a smile. During class, I occasionally glanced at the seat that once belonged to me. Zhaoying sat upright with an arrogant expression, fully immersed in her role. The math teacher wrote formulas on the blackboard, and sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the chalk dust and forming beams of light. I glanced down at my plain school uniform and slightly worn sneakers, feeling no envy, only relief. After school, following Zhaoying's usual routine, I went to the library with Lin Xiaoyu to do homework. "You seem a bit different today," Lin Xiaoyu suddenly said. My heart tightened. "How so?" "Hard to say. I just feel you've been much quieter," and she tilted her head, studying me. "Your eyes seem more mature than before." I smiled without answering. In fact, I am indeed a few months older than Zhaoying, but such a slight age difference shouldn't be so noticeable. Perhaps it's because I've experienced too much, and my eyes already carry a heaviness that shouldn't belong to someone my age. In the corner of the library, I opened my textbook and took notes seriously. This was the first time I was truly studying for myself, not to meet the high standards set by my mother. When I solve a math problem, the sense of accomplishment I feel is stronger than receiving any expensive gift. "Let's go. It's getting dark." Lin Xiaoyu packed up her school bag. We walked out of the library, and the sunset dyed the sky orange-red. At the intersection as we parted ways, Lin Xiaoyu suddenly said, "Zhaoying, I think you've become better recently." "What do you mean?" "It just feels like you're not as concerned about comparing yourself to Xiao Yayan anymore, and that's a good thing." She waved her hand. "See you tomorrow." On the way home, I deliberately took a longer route just to savor this sense of freedom a little longer. The aroma of fried food wafted from the small shops along the street, children played in the open space of the neighborhood, and elderly people chatted on benches. These ordinary scenes are precious gifts to me. When I got home, Aunt Zhao was mending a piece of clothing, her reading glasses sliding down to the tip of her nose. Back, the food is still warm in the pot, your dad and I have already eaten. I served myself a bowl of rice and ate it with the leftover dishes. The TV was playing a family drama, with Zhao's mother occasionally commenting on the plot. This kind of ordinary evening makes me feel more content than any luxurious banquet. After taking a shower, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, carefully examining the face that belonged to Zhaoying. Plump cheeks, bright eyes, and a slightly upturned corner of the mouth, an ordinary yet vibrant face. I gently touched my wrist, where the bracelet that changed my fate once rested. No, it should still be on Zhaoying's wrist, the one who is about to bear the fate that was originally mine. Good luck, I whispered to my reflection in the mirror. Then turned off the bathroom light. The classroom on Monday morning was a bit noisier than usual. I had just put down my backpack when I heard several girls chattering around my seat. Yayun, did your mom come to school yesterday? I heard she donated an entire laboratory building to the principal. Zhaoying elegantly flipped her hair in my body. Yes, Mom said the school's experimental equipment was too old, and the students deserve a better learning environment. Her performance was impeccable, even that faint sense of superiority was imitated to perfection. I lowered my head to organize my textbooks, but a strange feeling stirred in my heart. Mom would never personally come to the school to handle such trivial matters, nor would she suddenly develop an interest in educational charity. Lin Xiaoyu nudged my arm. Don't you think Xiao Yayun has been acting particularly strange lately? She's always been wealthy, but she never used to be so flamboyant. Maybe she's been in a good mood lately, I replied dismissively, yet my gaze involuntarily followed that familiar figure. During math class, I noticed my phone lighting up several times inside the desk. Each time Zhaoying checked it, her brow would furrow slightly, but she quickly regained her haughty expression. As soon as the bell rang, she immediately took her phone and walked out of the classroom, as if guided by some unseen force. I also excused myself to go to the restroom and followed her out. At the balcony at the end of the corridor, Zhaoying stood with her back to me, her voice low but clear enough. Isn't the checkup due in 3 months? Why the sudden rush to move it up? Whatever the person on the other end of the line said, her voice suddenly grew tense. All the tests, including the bone marrow aspiration, but my heart sank heavily. Bone marrow aspiration. That's far beyond the scope of a routine physical exam. Could Mom have discovered something? Zhaoying suddenly turned around, and I quickly ducked into the nearby stairwell. Her face was pale, her fingers tightly gripping her phone, and she didn't even notice me walking past her. During lunch, I deliberately sat at a table in the cafeteria not far from me. Zhaoying's plate was filled with exquisite dishes. Yayun, are you feeling unwell? A girl asked with concern. Zhaoying forced a smile. It's nothing, maybe I didn't sleep well last night. Why the sudden need for a full checkup? Wasn't it agreed to wait until I'm 18? Could she have found out? No, impossible. That revered monk said the spell is irreversible. I lowered my head and ate the shredded potatoes on my plate, barely tasting the food. Zhaoying's inner thoughts came intermittently, filled with anxiety and confusion. It seems Mom has indeed taken some action, but the reason is unclear. During the afternoon physical education class, our class and the class I was in had their lessons at the same time. While running, I deliberately slowed my pace and approached Zhaoying, who was resting in the shade of a tree. Xiao Yayun, you don't look well. Do you need to go to the infirmary? I asked, pretending to be concerned. She suddenly looked up, a flicker of panic flashing in her eyes. No need, I'm just a bit sunburned. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared at the entrance of the playground. It's Uncle Li, Mom's chief secretary, and behind him is a middle-aged woman in a white lab coat. Zhaoying's face instantly turned deathly pale. Miss, Madam has asked me to take you to the hospital for a checkup. Secretary Li's voice was as respectful as ever, but it carried an undeniable tone of insistence. All right now, I'm still in class, Zhaoying stammered. The woman in white stepped forward. It's just a routine check, it'll be over soon. I watched as Zhaoying was escorted away by 2 people, one on each side. Her back was stiff, and her steps were hurried. The classmates around were still enviously discussing how wealthy families are so particular, but only I knew this was no ordinary physical examination. Lin Xiaoyu leaned in. Wow. Xiao Yayun's family even has a special car for physical exams. That's just too much. I watched the departing car without answering. The sky had unknowingly filled with dark clouds, and a heavy rainstorm was about to arrive. By the time school was over, the rain was already pouring heavily. I hadn't brought an umbrella, so I had to stand at the entrance of the teaching building, waiting for the rain to let up. Zhaoying, want to walk together? I turned my head and saw our class monitor, Chinsu, holding a black umbrella. He was the top student in our class and rarely spoke to girls. Thank you. I hesitated for a moment before ducking under his umbrella. Raindrops tapped against the umbrella as we walked side by side on the wet street. Chinsu tilted most of the umbrella toward me, leaving his own left shoulder soaked. You seem to have changed a lot lately, he suddenly said. My heart tightened. Do I, quieter than before, but also more mature. His ears turned slightly red. I think that's quite nice. We stopped under the awning of a convenience store to take shelter from the rain. Chinsu bought 2 bottles of hot drinks and handed one to me. Warm your hands. Thank you. I took the drink, the warmth spreading from my palms. This kind of ordinary kindness was more touching than any expensive gift. The rain lightened a little, and we continued walking. At the parting intersection, Chinsu suddenly said, Actually, everyone has their own troubles. There's no need to care too much about what others think. I looked at him in surprise. What I mean is, he scratched his head. Sometimes when I see you interacting with Xiaoyun, I feel like you're under a lot of pressure, but it's okay to just be yourself. It suddenly dawned on me that this usually quiet guy was actually more perceptive than most people. When I got home, it was already dark. Mom Zhao was anxiously waiting at the door. Why are you so late? Did you get wet? I was doing homework at a classmate's house, I lied, not wanting to worry her. During dinner, the local news was playing on TV. A brief, inconspicuous news flash caught my attention. Famous female entrepreneur Xiao Yuehua donated the latest generation of medical equipment to the municipal hospital today. It is reported that this equipment can be used for organ transplant-related research. My hand trembled, and the chopsticks fell onto the table. What's wrong? Dad Zhao asked with concern. Nothing, my hand slipped. I forced a smile, but my mind was in turmoil. Organ transplant research, this is all too much of a coincidence. Mom suddenly scheduling an early checkup, donating medical equipment, and the bone marrow aspiration Zhaoing overheard. All these signs suggest that the plan may indeed have been moved up. Outside, the rain began to fall again. Gazing at the warm lights in the building across the way, I felt doubt about my choice for the first time. If I warned Zhaoing, would she believe me? Even if she did, could we still switch back? And, am I really willing to return to that fate destined for tragedy? These questions pounded my heart like raindrops, but in the end, I just silently picked up my chopsticks and continued eating the rice in my bowl. Everyone must take responsibility for their own choices. Zhaoing chose greed, while I chose freedom. This transaction was fair from the very beginning. The next day, Zhaoing did not come to school. During the break, the homeroom teacher briefly mentioned that Xiaoyun is sick and has taken leave, but various versions of rumors were already circulating in the classroom. I heard she went abroad to attend some kind of debutante ball. No, my cousin saw her at the hospital. It seems she was getting a comprehensive health checkup. Rich people are so particular. Even getting a checkup requires a hospital stay. I lowered my head and flipped through my textbook. Pretending not to be interested in these discussions, Lin Xiaoyu nudged me with her elbow. Do you think Xiaoyun has some serious illness? Don't talk nonsense, I whispered to stop her, though a hint of unease stirred in my heart. After school, I deliberately took a detour past the Xiao family villa. The black wrought iron gate was tightly shut, and the courtyard was eerily quiet. Even the security guards who usually patrolled the area were nowhere to be seen. This unusual silence made me feel uneasy. Zhaoing, a familiar voice came from behind. I was startled and turned around to see Chinsu standing not far away, pushing his bicycle. Do you live around here? He asked with a puzzled expression. No, I just happened to be passing by. I hurriedly explained. I heard Xiaoyun was sick and wanted to check on her. Chinsu looked at me thoughtfully. Your relationship seems better than before. I didn't know how to respond. Indeed. Zhaoing in the past had been openly jealous of Xiaoyun, but now my concerns seemed particularly out of place. Want to go to the library together? Chinsu suddenly changed the subject. There are a few pretty difficult problems in the physics homework. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Rather than sitting here overthinking, it would be better to do something productive. The library was very quiet, and we found a spot by the window. Chinsu's notes were incredibly neat, and his problem-solving approach was surprisingly clear. This problem should be solved using the conservation of energy. He sketched a diagram on the scratch paper, his fingers long and strong. I looked at his focused profile and suddenly remembered that in my previous life, I had also hired the best tutors, but they were never this patient in their explanations. They only cared about whether I could achieve good results in the next exam, so they could report back to my mother. You're spacing out. Chinsu gently tapped my notebook with his pen. Sorry, I pulled my thoughts back. I just think, you're really good at this. His ears turned slightly red. It's nothing, you'll get the hang of it with more practice. By the time we finished our homework, it was already evening, and we walked out of the library side by side. The setting sun stretched our shadows long. Chinsu pushed his bicycle, walking slowly. Actually, he suddenly spoke up. You don't always have to compare yourself to Xiaoyun. Everyone has their own shining qualities. I was taken aback. Why do you say that? Before, you were always watching her every move, and there was a look in your eyes of reluctance. He chose his words carefully, but these past few days, it seems like you've shed some burden, and you've become much more relaxed. I fell silent. Chinsu's observational skills were frighteningly sharp. What he saw wasn't just Zhao Ying's change, but the fundamental difference brought about by the alternation of two souls. When we parted at the intersection, he suddenly said, "It's going to get colder tomorrow. Remember to put on an extra layer of clothing." This simple concern warmed my heart. In my previous life, no one ever paid attention to whether I was dressed warmly enough. When I got home, Aunt Zhao was on the phone, and her expression didn't look too good. How could this be? Is it serious? She saw me, hurriedly said a few words, and hung up. Mom, whose call was that? It was your aunt, she sighed. She said the Xiao family's daughter is seriously ill and has already been transferred to a private hospital. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. What illness? I'm not sure. They said they need to do some major checkup. Mrs. Zhao shook her head. Even wealthy families are like this. Their child is so sick. Yet the parents aren't by her side. During dinner, I ate without tasting anything, my mind filled with images of Zhaoying lying in the hospital bed. Will those checkups be painful? Does she regret it? If I go to the hospital now and tell her the truth, is it still in time? Xiaoying, are you okay, mister? Zhao asked worriedly. You look so pale. Maybe I'm just tired. I put down my bowl and chopsticks. I'm going to do my homework first. Closing the door, I leaned against it and took a deep breath. On the desk was a family photo of Zhaoying, in which she was smiling carefree, completely unaware that her life had been completely changed. I turned on the computer and searched for information about private hospitals in the city. The top one indeed had investments from the Xiao family, but the hospitalization information was absolutely confidential. A light rain began to fall outside the window, pattering softly against the glass. I remembered the excitement in Zhao Ying's eyes a month ago when she fastened that bracelet around my wrist. She thought she was seizing someone else's life, not realizing it was like a moth flying into the flame. My phone suddenly vibrated. A message from Lin Xiaoyu. Breaking news. Some say Xiaoyun has leukemia and needs a bone marrow transplant. My fingers froze on the screen. Leukemia. This is clearly a smokescreen my mother has put out to pave the way for the upcoming treatment. But did Zhaoying believe it? Was she lying in her hospital bed, praying that all of this was just a nightmare? That night, I couldn't sleep. It rained all night, and I tossed and turned in bed, wondering if I should do something. But every time I thought of my mother's cold gaze, the meticulous medical examinations, and the fate that was originally meant for me, the courage that had just begun to sprout would shrink back again. When dawn broke, the rain stopped. I looked at Zhao Ying's face in the mirror and whispered, "This is your own choice," as if speaking to her, yet also as if comforting himself. When I entered the classroom, the discussions about Xiaoyun's condition grew even more heated. Some said they saw an ambulance, others said she needed to go abroad for treatment, and there were even those who claimed she had already. Zhaoying, Lin Xiaoyu hurriedly ran over and shoved her phone in front of me. "Look at the class group chat." There is a blurry photo in the group chat, seemingly a secretly taken shot of a hospital room. Although the face is unclear, the long hair and the limited edition bag by the bedside unmistakably belong to my body. I heard she's taking a year off from school for treatment. That's terrifying. I hope she's okay. Even money can't buy health. I looked at those discussions and suddenly felt a wave of nausea. It all felt like a meticulously orchestrated drama, with the audience forever unable to see the truth behind the scenes. "What's wrong with you? You look so pale," Lin Xiaoyu asked with concern. I shook my head and rushed to the restroom. In the stall, I retched a few times but couldn't bring anything up. Cold water splashed on my face as I stared at my pale reflection in the mirror. This wasn't Zhao Ying's expression, it was Xiaoyun's fear, even in a different body. Those memories still clung to me like a shadow. The class bell rang, and I slowly made my way back to the classroom. As I passed by that empty seat, I gently placed a piece of fruit candy on it. This was the reward my mother would give me after every physical examination when I was a child, though I knew that this sweetness concealed a much more bitter truth. "Zhaoying, I wish you good luck," I silently whispered in my heart, but this blessing, even I find it hypocritical. Time passed quickly, and before I knew it, it was already the end of November. Zhaoying had already taken 3 consecutive weeks off, and the discussions about her in the class gradually died down. Only her empty seat remained, reminding everyone of her presence. As for me, I had completely adapted to Zhaoying's life. Every morning at 6:30, I get up, eat the breakfast prepared by Auntie Zhao, walk to school, and chase and play with my classmates during breaks. This ordinary life makes me feel an unprecedented sense of stability. "Zhaoying, your birthday is next week. What gift would you like? Auntie Zhao asked while frying eggs on Saturday morning. I was taken aback for a moment. Right, Zhao Ying's birthday is December 5th, 2 months later than my original birthday. Anything is fine. I bit into my bread, but a strange feeling stirred inside me. This was the first time I was celebrating a birthday as someone else. Mr. Zhao looked up from his newspaper. An 18th birthday is a big deal. It should be celebrated properly. Do you want to invite some classmates over for dinner? 18 years old, that word made my heart tighten. In the original plan, 18 was supposed to be my end. No need to trouble yourself, just a simple family meal will do, I quickly said, but Aunt Zhao was getting excited. How can that be? Turning 18 is a coming-of-age ceremony. I'll order you a cake and invite all the relatives over. Watching them enthusiastically discuss the menu and guest list, my eyes grew a little warm. In my previous life, my birthdays were always grand parties, inviting celebrities from all walks of life, but never such a warm family gathering. Back at school on Monday, Lin Xiaoyu leaned in mysteriously and said, "Saturday is your birthday." "Right, we're planning a surprise for you. How did you know?" "Your mom mentioned it in the parents' group chat," she said with a wink. "Don't worry, we're all pretending we don't know." During the break, Chinsu handed me a beautifully wrapped little box, an early birthday gift, he said. I was surprised as I took it. "How did you also?" "I saw your birthday on your student ID when I helped you with your studies last time." His ears turned slightly red. "It's nothing expensive, but I hope you like it." Inside the box was an exquisite fountain pen, with a line of small characters engraved on the barrel. "Write your own life." "Thank you, I really like it." I gripped the pen tightly, feeling a surge of warmth in my heart. After school, Chinsu walked with me for a while, pushing his bicycle. The early winter sunset stretched our shadows long, and the scent of roasted sweet potatoes drifted from a roadside stall. After the coming-of-age ceremony, "Is there anything you want to do?" he asked. I thought for a moment. Just like this is fine. Going to school, coming home, being with friends, an ordinary life. He looked at me thoughtfully. "You really have changed a lot." My heart tightened, thinking he had discovered something. "What I mean is, you seem more clear-headed than before," he said with a smile. "It's as if you've suddenly figured out a lot of things." "Yes," I thought. It's only when you almost lose the most ordinary life that you realize how precious it is. On the morning of my birthday, I was woken up by the sound of "Happy Birthday." Uncle Zhao and Aunt Zhao walked in carrying a cake covered in candles, followed by a few children from their relatives' families. "Happy 18th birthday to our little Ing." I was startled by the commotion, but my heart felt warm. Auntie Zhao personally placed a birthday crown on my head, though it was cheap. It made me happier than any diamond tiara ever could. "Make a wish and blow out the candles," my cousin exclaimed, clapping her hands excitedly. I closed my eyes, the candlelight flickered before me, and I earnestly made a wish. I hope this simple, happy life can continue forever. When the candles were blown out, everyone applauded. Auntie Zhao wiped the corner of her eye and said, "Our little princess has grown up." Breakfast was exceptionally lavish. With Auntie Zhao preparing a whole table of dishes, relatives arrived one after another, filling the small house with people and creating a lively atmosphere. The slightly crowded warmth was something I had never experienced in the spacious villa. In the afternoon, my classmates also arrived. Lin Xiaoyu led the singing of the birthday song, while Chinsu helped carry in a large cardboard box. "This is a gift from all of us," everyone said in unison. I opened the cardboard box to find a handmade patchwork blanket inside, with each piece of fabric bearing the signatures and well wishes of my classmates. "You can take it with you when you go to college, so it'll feel like we're all by your side," Lin Xiaoyu said, her eyes reddening. I ran my fingers over the fabric with its fine stitches, my throat tightening. This was the most thoughtful gift I had ever received. As I cut the cake, looking at the smiling faces around the room, I suddenly remembered another person whose birthday was also today. Zhaoing, no, the one who has taken over my body. Where is she now? In a hospital bed, or in that cold, empty villa? This thought was like a thorn, making me feel a hint of unease amid the laughter and joy. After dinner, having seen off all the guests, I returned to my small room, gifts piled up on the desk, among which an unsigned envelope stood out. Inside was a simple greeting card with only one line of printed text. "Happy birthday, thank you for giving me the life I've always dreamed of." There is no signature, but I know who sent it. Zhaoing is still alive, and she seems quite content with her current life. I walked to the window and gazed at the distant city lights. If she knew the truth, would she still thank me? The phone vibrated. It was a message from Chinsu. "Are you happy today?" I replied, "Very happy, thank you for your gift. That pen is a memento from my award." I hope it can accompany you to write wonderful life stories. I looked at this message and suddenly made a decision. No matter what the future holds, I must cherish my present life. As for the fate I abandoned, let it remain a secret forever. Outside the window, a bright moon rose. The first night of being 18 was peaceful and beautiful. Little did I know that on the other side of the city, in a private hospital, another me was lying on the operating table, about to undergo her true rite of passage, and from this moment on, our fates will truly head in different directions. After the birthday, life returned to its usual calm, but beneath this calm, undercurrents were stirring. One morning in mid-December, a brief, inconspicuous news item appeared in the local press. Prominent female entrepreneur Xiao Yuehua has temporarily stepped back from the public eye due to health reasons, with company affairs being handled by her deputy. The classroom instantly erupted into chaos. No wonder Xiao Yayan hasn't been coming to school for so long. It turns out her mother is sick too. Is this some kind of hereditary disease? That's terrifying. What's the use of having money? Health is the most important thing. I stared at the news on my phone screen, my fingers turning cold. Mom would never put down her work for minor illnesses or pains, unless the plan had already entered a critical stage. Lin Xiaoyu leaned over to look at my phone and gasped, "My God, could Xiao Yayan's mother also?" Don't guess wildly. I locked the screen, my mind a mess. During the break, when I went to the office to hand in my homework, I accidentally overheard a conversation between the homeroom teacher and the math teacher. Xiao Yayan's leave of absence has been processed for a year. They say she's going abroad for treatment. That's serious. What illness requires a year of treatment? Not sure. But the Xiao family has kept the information tightly under wraps. 1 year, this timing sends chills down my spine. Mom is exactly 60 this year, and everything matches up. On my way home from school, I found myself inexplicably detouring to the Xiao family villa again. This time, an unfamiliar medical vehicle was parked in the yard, with several personnel in protective suits coming and going. "What are you looking at?" a security guard asked warily as he approached. I quickly lowered my head and walked away, my heart pounding like a drum. That kind of professional medical equipment is definitely not something you'd see in an ordinary household. On the weekend, Auntie Zhao took me to the mall to buy New Year's clothes. While trying on clothes in the boutique, I heard a familiar voice. This one, and this one, wrap them all up." Through the gap in the fitting room, I saw Zhaoing with a rosy complexion and a radiant expression. Shopping like crazy, 2 bodyguards stood behind her, their hands already full of shopping bags. "Miss, the madam said you've just been discharged from the hospital and shouldn't overexert yourself," a bodyguard whispered in reminder. "Mind your own business," Zhaoing snapped. "I'm perfectly fine now, never better." She turned to look in the mirror, caressing her own cheek, her eyes filled with obsession. "Look at the skin, this complexion. This is the real me, hiding in the fitting room." I felt a chill run through my entire body. She looks really good, even better than my original state, but this goodness feels eerie, like the calm before the storm. Aunt Zhao knocked on the door outside. "Zhaoing, are you done trying it on?" I hurriedly changed my clothes and walked out. Just passing by Zhaoing, she glanced at me, her gaze unfamiliar and arrogant, completely failing to recognize this body that originally belonged to her. These young people nowadays, really. Mother Zhao watched Zhao Ying's retreating figure and shook her head. Just recovered from an illness and already being so extravagant. I forced a smile, but a strong sense of unease rose within me. Everything had gone too smoothly, so smoothly that it didn't feel real. During dinner, the television suddenly cut to an urgent news bulletin. Ms. Xiao Yuehua, the wealthiest person in the city, fell into a sudden coma this afternoon and has been rushed to a private hospital for emergency treatment. It is reported that Ms. Xiao suffers from a rare genetic disease, and her daughter will also undergo preventive treatment. The chopsticks slipped from my hand, clattering crisply as they bounced on the table. "What's wrong, Mr.?" Zhao asked with concern. "And nothing." I bent down to pick up the chopsticks, but my fingers trembled slightly. Preventive treatment, what a perfect excuse. Mom fell ill, and next it's the daughter's turn. The curtain on this grand drama has finally officially risen. That night, I dreamed I was lying on a cold operating table, the shadowless lamp stinging my eyes. Mom stood beside me, wearing surgical scrubs, a scalpel in her hand. "Don't be afraid, it'll be over soon," she said with a smile, her eyes icy cold. "This is the reason for your existence." I jolted awake, drenched in cold sweat. Outside the window, the sky was still dark, and the distant wail of an ambulance echoed through the air. Picking up my phone, the class group chat was already in an uproar. Someone had taken photos of an ambulance coming and going from the Xiao family villa, and others swore they saw Xiao Yayan being carried out on a stretcher. Lin Xiaoyu messaged me privately. "Have you heard? Xiao Yayan is also critically ill. What kind of curse is this?" I didn't reply, just quietly watched the pale horizon outside the window. This moment had finally arrived, and it was even faster than I had imagined. At 6 in the morning, the phone vibrated with a text message from an unfamiliar number. "Thank you for the gift. I'm finally going to get a real new life." It was Zhao Ying. She was still in the dark, thinking this was the official start of her dream of marrying into wealth. I deleted the text message and got up to wash up. In the mirror, Zhao Ying's face wore a heavy expression I had never seen before. Today would be the day that decided everything, and I was just a powerless bystander. As I went downstairs, and Zhao was watching the morning news, the anchor reported the illness of the Xiao family's mother and daughter in a somber tone, with footage showing a crowd of reporters waiting outside the hospital. Life is truly unpredictable, and Zhao sighed. Such prominent figures, and they fell just like that. I silently sipped my porridge, which tasted as bland as chewing wax. Only I know the truth behind this tragedy, yet I can say nothing and do nothing. As I was leaving for school, Auntie Zhao slipped an apple into my backpack. "Eat it on the way. Don't overthink it. Life and death are fated." I nodded and headed toward the school. The streets were lined with festive decorations, and the Christmas atmosphere was already in full swing. Shops played cheerful holiday songs, creating an ironic contrast with the cruel truth I knew. While waiting at a red light at the intersection, I saw news about the Xiao family mother and daughter scrolling across a massive electronic screen. In the photo, I was smiling brightly, completely unaware of the fate that awaited me. The light turned green, and I crossed the street with the flow of people. Each step felt like walking on cotton, surreal and unreal. That day, the atmosphere in the classroom was unusually oppressive. Xiao Yayin's seat remained empty, but today, no one discussed it anymore. The shadow of death made all gossip seem frivolous. After school, Chinsu caught up with me. "Are you okay? You look really pale." "Just a bit tired." He hesitated for a moment. "If you need to talk, I heard you and Xiao Yayin are actually distant relatives." I was startled. "Who said that?" "Everyone in the class is saying that you two are related by blood, which is why you're so worried." Distant relatives. This unexpected misunderstanding actually turned out to be the best cover. "Yeah, you could say that." I went along with his assumption. Chinsu's expression softened. "No wonder. Do you want me to go with you to the hospital to check on him?" I shook my head. Going to the hospital now would be like walking into a trap. As we parted, Chinsu suddenly said, "No matter what happens, remember you still have your own life to live." These words hit me like a hammer, jolting me awake. Yes. From the moment of the exchange, we became two separate people. Her fate is no longer my concern, but why does my heart still ache so much? At night, I stand by the window, gazing toward the city. In the distance, the private hospital is brightly lit, where a life and death transaction is unfolding, and here, in this ordinary residential complex, Auntie Zhao is humming a tune in the kitchen as she prepared tomorrow's breakfast. Two completely different lives, separated by just a dozen kilometers. I clutched the front of my shirt, my chest tight with pain. "I'm sorry, Zhao Ying," I whispered silently in my heart, "but I know, this apology can never be spoken, and it can never change what has already happened." On Christmas Eve, the city saw its first snowfall. Delicate snowflakes drifted down from the gray sky, covering the streets and rooftops, temporarily concealing all the filth and secrets. The classroom was warm and cozy, with classmates excitedly discussing their holiday plans. But I was restless and uneasy. The Xiao family mother and daughter have been hospitalized for a week, with no new updates. This deathly silence is more unsettling than bad news. "Zhao Ying, any plans for the winter break?" Lin Xiaoyu leaned over to ask. "Haven't thought about it yet." I forced a smile. In reality, Zhao's mother had already planned to take me to my grandmother's house in the countryside for the new year. This is the family trip I've always dreamed of, but now I can't muster any enthusiasm for it. During the break, I went to the restroom and overheard a conversation between two girls from another class. My aunt is a nurse at that hospital, and she said Xiao Yayin was in critical condition all night. "Really? What illness is so serious?" I heard it's some kind of organ failure, and they need to replace a lot of things. My fingers instantly turned ice cold, and I had to lean on the sink to keep from collapsing. Organ failure, is this part of the plan, or is it that something went wrong during the surgery? The school bell rang, and I mechanically packed my bag. As I walked out of the school gate, I noticed Chinsu waiting at the entrance, pushing his bicycle. "Let me take you home," he said, a light dusting of snow resting on his shoulders. We walked silently along the snow-dusted street. As we passed a newsstand, I saw a photo of Xiao Yuehua on the front page of the evening paper. The headline read, "The legendary life of a female entrepreneur. You seem very worried about her." Chinsu suddenly spoke up. I didn't know how to respond. He hesitated. "If you want to go to the hospital, I can go with you." I shook my head. "It's too dangerous to go there now. In case someone from mom recognizes you." The phone suddenly vibrated. It was a multimedia message from an unknown number. I opened the picture. And my breath caught in an instant. The photo shows a luxurious hospital room, with Zhaoying lying in bed, her body covered in tubes. Her face was pale, her lips purple, and only the faint rise and fall of her chest proved she was still alive. The most terrifying part was her eyes, wide open, pupils filled with fear and despair. The text message had only one sentence: "I want to know the truth." My hands began to tremble, and I almost dropped my phone. Chinsu quickly steadied me. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, it's nothing." I hurriedly locked the screen. "Just a spam message." But that photo was already deeply etched in my mind. Zhaoying was still alive, and she seemed aware of something. The next day was the last day of classes before winter break. The classroom was filled with a festive atmosphere, but my heart felt as cold as the weather outside. At noon, the class group chat suddenly exploded. Someone forwarded a news flash that had just been released. Breaking news: Xiao Yayan, the heiress of the Xiao group, was pronounced dead at 11:23 a.m. today, at the age of 18. Her mother, Ms. Xiao Yuehua, has suffered a worsening condition due to overwhelming grief. The classroom instantly fell silent. Everyone stared at their phone screens, repeatedly checking the message in disbelief. Lin Xiaoyu covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. How could this be? She was still so young. I stared blankly at the news, feeling a chill run through my entire body. Zhaoying was dead. That girl who had once envied me, schemed against me, and ultimately walked to her death in my place. She was truly gone, and my mother's overwhelming grief act only filled me with a wave of disgust. This meticulously planned murder finally ended with a natural death. When school ended, the entire class remained silent. Someone suggested buying flowers to send to the Xiao family villa, but the homeroom teacher stopped them. "It's not appropriate to go now. Wait until the memorial service." I walked home alone as the snow fell heavier and heavier. Shops along the street have already hung up Christmas decorations, and cheerful music drifts out from the stores, forming a cruel contrast with my state of mind. At the milk tea shop I often pass by, I subconsciously stop in my tracks. A month ago, Zhaoying stood right here, vowing to take over my life, and now, she has already become a cold corpse. "A cup of bubble tea," I heard myself say. The hot milk tea was held in my hands, yet it couldn't warm my icy fingers. I remembered the look in Zhaoying's eyes in that last photo. It was the despair and fear after learning the truth. What did she finally understand? Was it regret for her greed, or resentment for my silence? The phone vibrated again. It was still that unfamiliar number. "In the end," she said, "thank you." My tears finally flowed uncontrollably, dripping onto the snow, melting a small pit. After the winter vacation officially began, I followed Aunt Zhao to the countryside. My grandmother's home is in a quiet small village, where the air is fresh and life is simple. There are no luxurious villas, no bodyguards, and none of those suffocating gazes. Every day, I followed my grandmother to feed the chickens and pick vegetables, and in the evenings, the whole family gathered around the stove to chat and watch TV. This kind of life is so ordinary that it borders on luxury. On New Year's Eve, we watched the Spring Festival Gala while making dumplings. The TV was just airing the annual figures review, and Xiao Yuehua's photo appeared on the screen. The host recounted her story of losing her beloved daughter in a tone of regret, and Zhao sighed. "Fate plays cruel tricks. What's the use of all that money when my daughter is gone?" I silently wrapped dumplings without responding. The mother on TV looked much younger, and there was genuine sorrow in her eyes. Was it because she had lost a perfect organ bank, or was it due to the affection built up over so many years? When the midnight bell tolled, the sound of firecrackers outside was deafening. My cousins were excitedly setting off fireworks, and the night sky was adorned with a dazzling array of colors. I stood in the courtyard, watching the brilliant fireworks bloom and fade. For the first time in 18 years, I spent a new year without bodyguards, banquets, or hypocritical pleasantries. My phone received many New Year's greetings, including Chinsu's, "Happy New Year, I hope you can truly be happy in the new year." I replied with a thank you, then deleted all messages from that unfamiliar number. What's past should be left in the past, whether it was beautiful or unbearable. On the morning of the first day of the Lunar New Year, I was awakened by the sound of firecrackers. Pushing open the window, a fresh breeze greeted me. The distant mountains were blanketed in snow, and in the fields, the occasional early-rising villager passed by. Auntie Zhao called from downstairs, "Xiaoying, come down and have some tanyuan." "Coming," I replied loudly. This was the first spring festival of my new life. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.